All right. Welcome to the PhireBall Sports Channel. I am Ryan Smith, and this is your Week 3 NFL preview. I'm going to recap my performance last week on my picks really quick. I lost on the San Francisco 49ers money line and as the favorite to cover. And I said with or without Christian McCaffrey. All right, I'm eating crow. I was wrong twice. I picked the Eagles to cover. Wrong. But I also picked the Green Bay Packers. I picked the Saints. I picked the Commanders to cover and to win with the money line. I only lost 3 last week out of the 8 picks I had. It was a good week, and I'm going to look to. And I also Bengals gave you the Bengals to cover. The picks that I made, at least 3 or 4 of those picks, less than 20% of the country had. I'm going to look to continue to do that this week. Let's start off with one of the games that I feel will be a continuation of this. All right. I am going to start off with, let's see. I am going to start off with the game, one of the games that I think will be the best game this week, which is going to be the Arizona Cardinals. Pardon me, Arizona Cardinals hosting the Detroit Lions. Cardinals are getting 3 points at home. All right. I am going to pick the Cardinals here. This is a dog bet. All right. With the 3 points. I think that the Lions with Goff there with Ray St. Brown, they have a very good chance to continue that great defensive play they have, the solid running game. And if Goff really steps up with St. Brown, then that could prove to come back and bite me. But we saw the emergence of Marvin Harrison Jr. last week, and Kyler Murray is playing as good as any quarterback in the NFL. I know it's early, but this guy is an athletic talent. When the Lions are going to come with the blitz, he's someone that can get out of the pocket, and now it seems like he is developing a rapport with Harrison. This guy is in a class of a lot of very, very talented rookie wide receivers this year. He was, unanimously the best player on everyone's draft board, and last week he showed why. I am not going to say that the Cardinals are going to beat the Lions, but I am going to say that they will cover, and that is going to be one of my underdog picks for the week. So let's move on. Next, I'm going to touch on the Houston Texans at the Vikings. It's a 4-point spread. Texans are given 4 points, and the Vikings are at home. Now, Sam Darnold playing with a little bit of a banged-up Justin Jefferson, but even banged up, he's still pretty much the best receiver in the league on one leg. I really think that. So I think Darnold is showing us pretty much what was expected of him, right, when the Jets drafted him number 3 overall. And if he could continue this, the Vikings are 2-0. Texans are coming in 2-0. One of these teams is leaving undefeated. One of them is leaving 2-1. Everybody in the world is going to say, because we expected big things from C.J. Stroud and the Texans this year, that's going to be the team that comes out on top. Not so sure about that. Nico Collins has been a big part of their success. Well, I think that with Aaron Jones, the running game of the Vikings, and their very famous veteran secondary, their cornerback and Harrison Smith at safety, I think that they are going to be able to shut down Nico Collins and take away some of the big playability that will keep them in this game with the Texans. And I think that the Vikings cover. I think that they showed an ability to have the deep ball, with Jefferson, obviously. The play-action pass works. They have a great running game. And, like I said, Darnold is just somebody that if he has found his rhythm, because his accuracy was always his thing. He always has a rocket for an arm. He was always a mobile quarterback. If Justin Jefferson has given him the ability to have a safety blanket that allows him to take some risks, which whether he improved his accuracy deep or mid-range or not, he can throw on the run and Jefferson can get open. So that's the type of player that, like a lot of these stud LSU receivers, can change a quarterback's career. It wouldn't be the first time it happened. Not to mention, playing in Minnesota is never an easy place to play. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the Vikings as an underdog dog pick also. And all right, who am I going to talk about next? Let's get this one out of the way. Money line pick, Tampa Bay Bucks. They will be playing the Denver Broncos. It's a 6.5-point spread that the Bucks are favored. And I think that with Bo Nix under center and Todd Bowles' proclivity to draw up a ton of blitzes, Nix with this Broncos offensive line, there's not going to be much you can do. So expect the Bucks to be a great pick. And if any of you are in the suicide pools, I can't think of a better team to pick than the Bucks this week playing the Broncos. And 6.5-point spread is I don't know about covering that. Broncos could always surprise you, but I have a feeling they'll cover. But let's say they are a money line pick. Moving forward, Philadelphia Eagles. They were one of the teams I picked last week to cover that did not. The Falcons came back late. And let's not discredit what the Falcons can do. Kirk Cousins has shown time and time again that he is a quarterback that belongs in that discussion as a top 5 to 10 quarterback of the league. He's consistent. He can make big plays. The Falcons are for real. I don't know if they're a for real contender to win the NFC, but the Eagles without A.J. Brown, and let's be perfectly clear that it is because they were without A.J. Brown that they were even put in the position that the game was that close. But they're going into this week playing a very hot New Orleans team that I picked last week to cover. I know I didn't pick them to beat the Cowboys, but going into to AT&T Stadium in Arlington there, that's not a real common thing to do, to put up another 40-point performance and have Kamara, return to form as one of the best running backs of his generation. That with the combination of, just how well Carr seems to be fitting in there in New Orleans, Eagles are going to have their hands full. They really wish this game was at the Link in Philly because that would make me feel completely different. But at the Mercedes-Benz Dome in New Orleans, with the Saints fans coming off of 2 huge wins. I mean, one I think we won was the Panthers, but last week was against the Cowboys, who I'm not saying that they are a great team, but they had a great record last year. They have talent up and down the roster, in the especially in the especially in the in the skill positions. CeeDee Lamb had a huge play that I have no idea how the Saints missed the tackle on that turned into a touchdown. But besides that, the Cowboys were forced to throw the ball all game, and they couldn't make anything happen. Eagles are going to be forced to throw the ball. Saquon Barkley expected to be a part of that. Devontae Smith did pick up the slack last week because the number 2 filling in for A.J. Brown, number 1 spot, but he's not A.J. Brown. He might be as good of a number 2 receiver we have in the NFL, but I saw something that surprised me. I picked the Eagles to win without Brown because I thought that they were the team that just 2 years ago almost beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And they have Saquon Barkley. It's a guy that I am very upset about for leaving the New York Giants. Not upset at Saquon at all, but definitely at the Giants front office for thinking that anybody would be worth saving $3 or $4 million a year extra that the Eagles are paying and to let him go in the division and most likely humiliate the Giants twice a year for God knows how long. But anyway, I don't think Devonta Smith and the the Eagles' run defense that has been struggling big time struggling. Robinson and company on the Falcons ran all over them last week, and even Green Bay had success running on the Eagles. So, and that's with the new running back just getting the feel on the team. The Eagles have a D line that can step up, but I don't know if it's going to be at New Orleans on the road. So I am going to make New Orleans one of my underdog picks this week to cover the 2.5 points that they're getting. That means that the odds makers think the Eagles are about a half point better. So it's pretty much a pick 'em if there's no home field involved. I'm sorry. That's the 5.5 points better if it was not in New Orleans. But we are in New Orleans, and I think that New Orleans, if they don't win this game, it's going to not come down to a field goal. This will be a 1-point game, and if they don't beat the Eagles outright, because Jalen Hurts showed me that, you know what, NFL MVP, past performance aside, if he doesn't have Brown, Brown is definitely, and that surprised me too, but he's worth every penny they paid him. The Eagles front office knows what they're doing. They always have. And not to take anything away from Hurts, he's definitely one of the best quarterbacks in the game, but he needs a number one receiver to accompany Saquon Barkley at this point in his career to make it so they are almost impossible to cover on defense, especially if you try to man up. So, moving on, I'm going to stick with the big games. Baltimore going on the road to play Dallas, and they are 1-point favorites. Now, this one, Baltimore, I've said it every week. I thought they were a Super Bowl contender last year. I think that they are more of a Super Bowl contender this year. Derrick Henry has been put on that team. They're going to use him. Lamar Jackson is going to be throwing the ball, and there isn't a quarterback better at putting up points in the red zone. So Micah Parsons and the Dallas Cowboys defense, which was pretty close to absent as a run defense, in front of one of the best running backs in the league and one of the best mobile quarterbacks that we've ever seen. Put it this way, I can talk about all the factors in the world. I do not see the Baltimore Ravens, who I feel are one of the top 3 teams in the AFC. And if not the AFC, in the entire NFL, I do not see them starting this season 0-3. And if they did, I still don't see that necessarily being the nail in the coffin. But like I said, sometimes you don't have to analyze too far. A team that good, especially coming off an embarrassing loss against the Raiders, by the way, another team I picked last week that no one had. I definitely didn't see them winning the way they did. I thought that I think what I said verbatim was 8.5 points in the NFL is a big spread. If any team deserves it, it's the Ravens. But this early in the year, until they've shown something, coming off a loss, I don't see them covering 8.5. I thought they'd win by a touchdown. That's what I thought. But I did pick the Raiders to cover. They ended up beating them. So you can look for them. Same reason I picked the Packers last week. Coming off a tough loss against a good Eagles team. Well, Ravens are coming off a very tough loss against a very similar skilled Las Vegas Raiders team, and you can expect them to cover the 1-point spread. And also, obviously, if they cover the 1-point spread, I feel like they're a great money line pick. So watch that spread, see how it goes. But just to let you know, I like the Ravens up to 2.5, depending on if the spread moves. I doubt it's going to move much, but they are not my money line pick because I am going to try as hard as I can to only give you a favorite and a money line that are the same team, one game per week. And this week, I'm not going to do it on that game. Not on the game with the 1-point spread. Moving on, next big game, Kansas City Chiefs at the Atlanta Falcons. All right, we talked about how well the Falcons played against the Eagles. really until the last drive of the game when they won it, they were, behind the entire game, or very close to behind the entire game. But their running game looked great. Their passing game was very, very productive. Certainly, also, if you recall, I picked the Bengals last week to cover against the Chiefs. They did. And here's the thing. People are going to say the Chiefs got lucky last week. Number one, I wouldn't say they got lucky. Let's not discredit what they've accomplished in the NFL. Let's say, number one, that Jamar Chase, unnecessary, what was it? The improper conduct, whatever you call it. He got down the referee's throat. That was a unnecessary thing for him to do. However, especially because there shouldn't have been a flag. It was a perfect no call, especially when you're on the road. You can't expect that call, but to jump down the ref's throat, that was stupid. However, in the fourth quarter, if you're the refs, you don't throw that flag. Now, if you do, here's my problem. The next play, it's a 10-yard pass. If that flag doesn't get thrown, that's a first down. The Bengals could drive down and put that game out of reach. But they also miss an extra point to allow the Chiefs to win with a field goal at the end. But how did they win with the field goal? On 4th and 16, Mahomes is flushed out of the pocket, and he ends up heaving the ball like Eli Manning in the 2008 Super Bowl against the undefeated Patriots, up in the air to the center of the field into double coverage. No doubt about it. Unlike that Super Bowl with the Giants where Tyree just made a great catch and Harrison looked like that chump, that was a pass interference. He pushed him before the ball got there. However, on 4th and 16, just throwing the ball up in the air just because you get it near a guy who has to jump 2 feet to even get his hands on it. The contact, I did not feel warranted a flag being thrown. That's why the refs threw it late, because of the point of the game it was at. Under 1 minute left, 4th and 16. You had just screwed the Bengals with the previous call. Chase, like I said, whether he deserved it or not, I don't know. You're in Arrowhead Stadium. It's a tough place to play as it is, but you allowed them to have a first down, have 3 downs to get the ball exactly where they needed to kick a 49, 50-yard field goal, which adds to the NFL's obsession with field goals this year. Teams are just kicking them left and right. The Giants lost last week and didn't allow a single touchdown. Guys are drilling these, by the way, guys are drilling 50-yard field goals like they're 30-yard field goals. So moving back the extra point was definitely a good choice. I remember for years the record field goal was 63 yards. Guys are thinking about 63 yards like they used to think about 50. Yeah, it's deep, but we'll hit it. But he drilled that ball in Arrowhead right down the middle. It probably would have been good for 65. And I didn't think they should have had that opportunity to win it that easily. So they didn't get lucky. Chris Jones had an amazing game that you can't see in the stat line. Yeah, I think he had a half of a sack and a forced fumble. And if it wasn't him that forced the fumble, he definitely put pressure on Burrows and made him step up in the pocket and get hit, and which allowed the D-back to pick up the ball and run it in to score for the Bengals. But so the Chiefs definitely played well. But here's the thing: I am picking the Atlanta Falcons to cover the 2.5 points because, again, this is in Atlanta, and Travis Kelce, what most would say, and you know what? They're probably right. He hasn't done anything all year. Nobody really falls off that quickly. But, hey, I'm not going to sit here and talk about how because he's dating Taylor Swift, his head's up his rear end and he no longer is focused on football. I'm not going to go that far, but I'll go at least a quarter that way. If he doesn't put up numbers this week and, with Pacheco out, lead the Chiefs to victory. There's a big play last week he had that was called back because of a flag, holding. But, he's been nowhere to be found. I think that the Falcons' running game and how comfortable Cousins looks there, I think that is that's all you really need to see. I think to know that it's definitely a ballsy pick on my part, but the Falcons will cover, And, if they cover a 2-point spread, it's likely they'll win, but I'm going to pick them to cover. And maybe the Chiefs squeak out another 1-point win. And like I said, teams that have won 2 Super Bowls, 3 Super Bowls in, 2 to 5 years, they have a hard time maintaining that level of play. And I think they are becoming a little bit of a sideshow. It's a little premature for me to go too much more in depth than I already have, but they're missing one of the main playmakers on offense. Kelsey hasn't shown up yet. Big contribution from the other receiver, Rice there, but I'm picking the Falcons. Moving forward, all right, we have my next money line and pick for a favorite. Miami Dolphins are going on the road to Seattle. It is a 4.5-point spread. I'm shocked that it's not more lopsided than that. The Dolphins are a great team, but until Tua got hurt in Week 1 against the Bills, they didn't look too good. And with with Skyler there as their quarterback, I don't see Miami Dolphins even touching the Seattle Seahawks. So again, if you haven't used them already, maybe if you don't use the Bucks this week, use them in your suicide pools. Money line, covering the spread, Seattle. That's going to be an easy one. If anything different happens, again, besides Murray, Geno Smith has been playing as good as any quarterback this week, and you know how hard it is to go into Seattle and win, especially when you don't have a franchise quarterback and the team is distracted as they are. All right, next up. This is one of my I can't touch it games. The Green Bay Packers are going to play the Tennessee Titans. I don't know if Jordan Love is going to play or not. All indications are that he's not going to make the start. And if he doesn't make the start, it's going to be a tough game. That's why these spreads 2.5, even though the Titans Will Levis are not a powerhouse team by any means. If the Packers need to rally behind Malik Willis, it's possible that they win with or without Love, but I would say that would be because the opposing quarterback, Will is he's a big time gambler as a quarterback. He likes to take shots, and people forget that the Packers have a great secondary. They cause turnovers. They've been doing it all year. Right off, they signed the Giants free agent. They signed Xavier to play safety, so he's out there in center field, and they have good young quarterbacks. So I think it's a great matchup for them, even though it is on the road. But like I said, without Jordan Love playing, there's too much up in the air, so I am going to leave that game alone. Let's move on to San Diego at Pittsburgh. 1.5 points. Pittsburgh has looked great. Mike Tomlin, right next to Andy Reid, is by far, you heard me right, the best coach in the NFL career. I wouldn't even say Reid's better than him. They both have won, I think they both won 3 Super Bowls. Tomlin's definitely done it last years. What was Reid in Philadelphia for 11, 12, 47 years with no Super Bowls? And he's won behind Mahomes. Not to take anything away from him, but Mahomes could be the best quarterback ever. And like I said, not to take anything away from Andy Reid, but I did see a lot of great Philadelphia Eagles teams just blow it every year. And it's a lot on McNabb, but you can't forget that Reid was their head coach. So anyway, my point is that Mike Tomlin has done such an amazing job coaching up that Steelers team. They still managed to just import linebackers as easy as teams that, if they wanted to pick running backs with the top 10 pick, could bring them in. They have these guys that I hate to use this, but if you look at Madden, their linebackers, they'll always have 6 linebackers that are rated between 80 and 90. and sometimes they have stars that are above that, and their defense is great. But so is the San Diego Chargers defense, and you know what? One of the Bosa brothers this year is having a great start to the year. Look for him to have a defensive player of the year caliber season, and Herbert will, I believe, put the ball up in the air. And because they have a running game, which the Steelers really do not, I think that's the deciding factor. And because of that, I would say, let me see here. Yeah, because of that, I'm going to say that San Diego is another pick I have for a favorite to cover at Pittsburgh 1.5. All right, moving on. All right, where am I going to go next? Where am I going to go next? We only have, I think, 5 games left. Let's go to some of the larger spreads. Let's go first. Let's go to the Niners at the Rams. I'm going to just come out and say, and I hope I'm wrong because he has had an exceptional career, and I really admire the Los Angeles Rams organization for trading away Goff to bring Stafford in and winning the Super Bowl when they had the talent to do so. And it looks like the right move. You can't say, even if it was just one Super Bowl. Super Bowls are not easy to come by. They get rid of a young Goff for a veteran Matthew Stafford. He comes in, and he was still at the top of his game then, and he wins in the Super Bowl. But looking at him this year, he just looks like, I think he was drafted in 08, 09. Right around, I forget who was first, Sam Bradford and Matt Stafford. I always get them mixed up. But this is either his 15th or 16th year in the league as a starting quarterback. So, it's when you're a couple years away from 40 in the NFL as a quarterback, and the Rams are missing a receiver, that's a big weapon of yours, and you're playing a Niners team coming off a very disappointing loss. Your home field advantage does not matter. The Niners, I'm not going to make them one of my picks, but I think that Deebo Samuel's having a great year. I even think Kittle's is out. I don't think that the Rams can win this game. These Niners are 6.5-point favorites. I don't know if they can cover that either. I think this will be a closer game than many people think. But I do think that the Niners, just like I said last week, without McCaffrey will win. I'm not going to say that's one of my picks. It's not one of my underdogs. Not one of my favorite picks. Not one of my money line picks. I'm staying away from them until I see more, what the team is without McCaffrey, especially because Kittle's not playing this week. Jacksonville and Buffalo. Jacksonville can certainly surprise and put up the big play, but I don't see it happening. Buffalo is a very hard place to go into a win. Josh Allen is playing great, and in the AFC East, the Patriots, you have the Patriots and the Dolphins, which they're as good as dead in my opinion. I'm not making that call this early unless Tua comes back, which for his health, I really hope I don't have to see that. But it's the Jets and the Bills division to lose. I think that they will both be playoff teams, and I think that they will both make a run. But I think that the Bills are going to revert back to the 2022 Bills, and they're going to be dominant this year. So, and mostly because of the weakness that is normally not there in the AFC East that is there this year because of injuries and the changes in New England. So, moving on, we have the Bears at the Colts. Bears are the 1.5-point favorites on the road against Indy. All right, so the Colts can't stop the run. All right, Bears have their rookie quarterback, the savior of Chicago, supposedly, and I am waiting for him to break out, but they can't protect him. Bears have no offensive lineman in front of this poor kid. Caleb Williams is just on the run all the time. That is one of his strengths, throwing outside of the pocket, but it's tough. I would say that because the fact that there's a banged up Colts team that gives Caleb Williams a bigger shot than normal, which is why the spread is 1.5 to lead the Bears to victory. But the Colts, I have a feeling, are going to win with their steady running game, and it won't matter if they can't stop the run because like I said, the Bears they're banged up on defense a little bit too, and it's not like they're stopping their run is a huge challenge so far. But if the Bears are to win, it's going to be because they get that ground game going with the running back that was supposed to be a safety blanket for Caleb Williams, and because Caleb Williams breaks out. And that would be exciting to see for the game. But I'm not touching that. I won't touch it, like I said. Indy's not a strong enough team for me to guarantee they beat the Bears, and the Bears still with the rookie quarterback and no offensive line. It's not time yet to be backing them, but I do believe they have a bright future there. Carolina going on the road against the Las Vegas Raiders. Carolina is just, they're benching Bryce. Everybody heard that, and they're starting Andy Dalton. Still in the league, Andy Dalton. What is it? His 35th year. I remember him playing last year against Seattle, and I think he must have thrown about 55 times. He put up numbers. So for fantasy purposes, which I don't really get into, but Dalton's a great start. So are the Carolina receivers because he is a veteran quarterback. The Raiders are not going to really be a team that scares him, but they're 5-point favorites, and I'm not going to have this as one of the games that I bet, but I am going to say that the Raiders will most likely come away victorious. All right, so I like to end with the Monday night game, but instead I am going to go Monday night and then end with the Giants because, like I said, you can see behind me, Knicks, Giants, Rangers, Yankees, New York sports is what I cover the best, even though I'm going to make the point to let you know I can cover everything, and I do know how to cover every team in every sport. But on this NFL Sunday preview, you got the Cincinnati Bengals coming off a loss in Kansas City that should have been a win. You can go back and forth, blame it on the refs, but they did miss a big extra point. Whether the flag should have been thrown or not at the end of the game would not have been an issue. And even though I said you shouldn't have thrown that flag on Jamar Chase, if he would have just shut his big fat mouth and kept his head in the game instead of up the ref's ass, then you know what? It wouldn't have been an issue. That would have been play leading up to the third down conversion, and the way they were moving the ball, I think they would have scored and put that game away. But here's the thing. What did I say last week when the Washington Commanders played the Giants? I said they are probably, besides maybe the Panthers, the Commanders, and the Giants right now are going to be fighting for the worst team in the NFL until one of them proves me wrong. And that's until Chase Daniels breaks out and starts to lead the Redskins, until, I don't know, the Giants can do what they did last week, which is hold the Redskins to 0 touchdowns and using Malik Neighbors to impact the game. But what I think you saw last week was plain simple. A poor team with a rookie quarterback and Daniel Jones just gunning the ball to a rookie, Malik Neighbors, that had a great game against a Washington Commanders secondary that cannot stop anyone who throws the ball. And now you got Burrow with his, he's getting his number 2 receiver back. They have 4 receivers that are capable. They have Jamar Chase. Last week, they're number 3. I always hate saying his name. Iosha from Princeton. He scored 2 touchdowns last week. They got the rookie Burton, and I'm not sure what the latest update is on their number 2, but either way, whether they have 3 good targets for Burrow or 4, they are going to light up the Redskins. So that's 7.5-point spread. Even though I normally don't like to pick teams with spreads that big, and I am going to say that is a money line lock So my 3 money line picks: Tampa Bay, Seattle, and Cincinnati. The 3 favorites: Baltimore -1 against the Cowboys, Seattle, and San Diego. And the underdogs: the Vikings, the Saints, and the Falcons. I'm sorry, and the Cardinals. So actually, I did say all 3, didn't I? I'm sorry. So I gave you 4 underdogs: Vikings, Saints, Falcons, Cardinals. If I had to throw one of them out, I don't really know who it would be. I really don't. I guess it would have to by default be Atlanta because out of respect for the Chiefs, but it could be Minnesota or Saints just as easily. But I'm giving you 4 picks. I feel confident that you will, with the favorites I gave you, these 7 picks, you will come away with a minimum of 5 through 7. And the money line picks, I don't think I lose any of those. So, look for me to go at very, very, very worst this week. Look for me to go 5-3. I think I can go 6-2 pretty easily. But 5-3 with the spread. It's better than those ridiculous reporters led by Gray Rosenthal in the NFL that pick teams, show the spread and the over/under, and then just pick who wins and still just hover above 500. Give me a break. How can I be beating those experts with picking against the spread? But that's another story. All right, so let me end with the Giants and the Cleveland Browns. All right, so you got a game in Cleveland. It's never an easy place to play. The Browns are a little banged up. Myles Garrett's still nursing that injury. I think it's his quad. But he was hurt last week, and he pressured the quarterback 2 or 3 times and got a sack. He's that good. He's one of the best exterior rushers that the league's seen in a very, very long time. And I think that the Giants are lucky that they have a great set of tackles to protect Jones on the outside there, especially knowing that, likelihood that Garrett can at least be neutralized for all but 2 or 3 plays of the game, rushing Jones. But I think last week what you saw with Daniel Jones, well, first of all, the Giants have to make sure the kicker they signed can step up and deliver because the Giants are going to need a kicker. This year in the NFL, there's been more field goals than I can ever remember. So I would even expect in the offseason, just after 2 weeks of what I've seen with all these field goals, some rules to be made, rule changes to be made next year. Can't do anything about it now. Giants lost a kicker last week. They're going to, I forget who they signed. I know they signed somebody. And they're going to need to use them because they're the Giants. So last week I told you until further notice that you bet whoever is playing them, regardless of the spread, and regardless, to pick the favorite because everyone that plays them will be the favorite, and you pick them to win and cover. 6.5 points. I have to at least look at the fact that their defense, when you look at the numbers that Chase Daniels put up against them and the number of times that they were in the red zone, the Giants held them to field goals, which was every time because the Giants had 0 touchdowns. Their D looked good. I think they had 5 sacks, right? Their run defense definitely wasn't stopping anyone, but their secondary is definitely not impressing anyone by any stretch of the imagination. But Jefferson torched them, but he torches everyone. It's hard to tell with a rookie quarterback. I just don't know what to make of last week. I'm going to say for right now, most likely that was just the Giants, and they lost. Let's not forget they lost to the Commanders. So even though Malik Neighbors had a great game, I do not see him going against Ward, that shutdown corner that the Browns have on that D, in addition to the fact that Garrett is going to be in Jones' face because he's one of those few players that, It's not like he's going against Trent Williams. Even if he was, I still think he's one of those players, much like the Bosa brothers, and Pearson, that you can't really stop them from getting a couple knockdowns, a couple hurries, and probably a sack. But the biggest factor is that what I saw in the success last week, besides the fact that Devin Singletary did put up close to 100 yards rushing because it was a close game. Don't forget, you only get to run the ball when you're in the game. And we'll see if that's the case because, like they said, if the Giants play anything close to what they've been playing, I think Jones reverts to the Jones that I know, the Dave Brown, the Dave Brown Part 2, without the New Jersey swag, then the Browns might even cover. But who knows? Maybe the Giants surprise me, and I sure hope they do. But Cleveland's not an easy place to go into. If I'm coaching Cleveland, I'm going to tell you this is a must-win. Sean Watson has, elite quarterback potential. God knows where his head's at, but if he steps up, they do have the weapons to make it a very long day for the Giants. So, I'm not betting that game temporarily.